Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Rose Horowitz, and I want to welcome you to episode 12 of Woman to Follow. Hi. I'm going to introduce you soon to my guest, Idalin Bobé, who is head of operations at Maroxa, and a startup in tech, and is also an activist. And let me tell you a little bit about how Woman to Follow got started. In 2018, I put out a tweet to try to amplify the voices, women's voices on social media, because we don't hear them. And the tweet, went viral, fortunately. And I used the Woman to Follow in that tweet. And people named women all over the world who are leading Women to Follow. And after the pandemic, when I had done a lot of live stream shows, I decided that it would be good, and people suggested that I do my own show. So here we are at episode 12. And I want to thank my producer, Stefan Kaplan, who does a terrific job. I also like to thank my sponsor, Women in Technology International. So let me start introducing Idalin. And before that, hi, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
Thank you for having me, Rose.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. Thrilled to have you. The more I see on researching you in a deep dive, the more interesting things I've discovered. So,
thank you.
And for people who are watching, just want to encourage everybody to watch. And we're live on Facebook, live on my Twitter accounts, Rose Horowitz 31 at Rose Horowitz 31, and also Woman to Follow. And you can also see the show on YouTube, my YouTube channel. So spread the word. And I'd welcome any questions for my guest or for myself. So let me finish telling everybody a little more about you. Idalin grew up in North Philly in a poor neighborhood. And she didn't go to college right away. It wasn't something most kids did in her high school. But with the encouragement of some church and community groups, she attended college. And what she found there was that she sort of, over this time, discovered the power and beauty of the internet. And she went back to school for an M.B.A. I think she studied statistics in college, and then for her master's, she went to Mills College and studied computer science. And she's worked at several companies, including, she started out by doing some work as an activist to help encourage underrepresented women in tech. And so she's worked with Girls Who Code and some other groups that she may tell us about. And she had several jobs in tech, and now is head of operations for Maroxa. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Definitely worked with amazing organizations like Yes We Code with Van Jones and Prince. Prince actually invested a lot early on in tech education. And we worked on bringing tech to the Essence Festival, where people, it's one of the largest communities where Black people go, for culture, to learn about new things. And we wanted a tech hub to be there. So Prince was an early on investor in that with Van Jones, and it was amazing to work on that project. Before then, working with Black Girls Code with Kimberly Bryant. Kimberly Bryant's an amazing leader, a visionary who inspired by her story and her daughter's story about feeling and being the only woman of color, often the only Black person in the room learning tech. Uh, build Black Girls Code to have a more accessible computer programming language, a program for young women, Black, Latin, Indigenous, nationwide. So lots of fun journeys.
Okay. Uh, let's start out where you are now. So tell
Yes.
us what you do.
So currently, I work remotely from Harlem. I live in Harlem, in New York.
Uh-huh.
And the company I work with is called Moroxa. Moroxa is a data platform as a service organization. We have 3 products we're currently building out. One product that's already out that we pushed is Conduit. It's an open source. So people who love open source tools, please feel free to follow Conduit. Our products empower software engineering teams to build data pipelines in minutes, allowing them to move their data quickly using their existing workflow. So that's where we love. Most people, companies, they're struggling finding data engineers and building out their data engineer teams. What we like to do again is just empower software engineers to add our products to their tech stack already and really get their data flowing and going and using real-time data to power your product. Because why not? If you have the power to do something with real-time data, definitely go for it. So my role in the company is head of operations, where I focus on all things performance, workplace culture, finance, and supporting the company's overall project management. So that really, it's like every department. And I love it. I love the details of things. I love building community. In my most recent job before this, I actually worked with 30 I worked on 120 projects in 30 different countries, and I did a lot of field work in these countries as well.
And
So I
what company
really,
was that? What company was that?
I worked with a private organization
Mhm.
focused on social economic justice, education, and media. And
Okay.
we worked with organizations, empowering organizations with tech support, with resources, legal, anything and everything to really get their mission up and going. And it was an amazing time. I worked there for about um, close to like 5 years.
Okay. And can you give us an example for people who don't know that much about your current job and what the company does? An example, if there's anything concrete you can share.
Yeah, so I would just say the importance of like real-time data. So when you purchase something at a store, and you go onto your bank account, you want to in real time see that purchase made. And if it's not, then you have a problem. The problem that people and companies are having, we're collecting so much real-time data and so much data that it's really hard to basically update all of your products with that real-time information. So the faster you can get things, data from one data source to another, the better. So in the most simplest way, that's what we work on. So if you're a fanatic in sports, if you see someone, a score in a basketball game, you want to, regardless of what app you're following, you want that real time update to happen.
Okay.
So it's getting more expensive for companies to keep that up. And right now, again, we have an open source product called Conduit where teams can right now for free move their data from different sources. So we're trying to really take data out of silos and really empower teams, engineers specifically, with the coding that they have. We're just working with their workflow.
Okay. And I read something interesting about the diversity in Moraxa. Can you talk about that a little?
I mean, Morocco is a special place, and I knew I wanted to be in a special place if I was going to move from grassroots, from nonprofit into a for-profit company. And Moraxa, again, it's a beautiful organization where you don't really hear or see the story that we have. We are Black history in the making. The company advances Black leaders and trains the next generation. And we've only been around for 1 year. So 1 year, we have a team of 35 people, and already we have 60% of the company identifies as Black. 40% identifies as women, and 90% of our executive team, which I'm on, represents, again, 90%, which is huge, represents a community, an underserved community. And when I say that's huge right now, you have, I believe it was Wired who ran a report saying, according to demographics analysis from Wired, Black, Latin, and Native tech professionals make up less than 5% of the workforce at major tech companies. And that's 5%, and that's combining two huge populations in one. And we still only make up 5% of the workforce. So to be working at an organization, again, where 60% of the people identify as Black and they're technical. Just to share, we did get 15 million in our Series A funding. And yes, there are a ton of Black entrepreneurs, but there are not too many Black technical founders. And we have two founders with African descent who are our leaders. I actually met Tavares Brown 12 years ago through Black Girls Code to talk about, a full circle and building out the community and network. Tavares Brown was one of the early donors of Black Girls Code. And I've been following his work. He started his own tech education program as well. So he knows what I'm capable of. I know what he's capable of. We both have such a strong commitment to our community that it was just really aligned for us to start off in this project. When I say that Moraxa, we're building out the next generation. What I mean right now, you don't have many opportunities where you're having Black and Brown leaders or senior engineers. So we just this week launched our apprenticeship program where we onboarded 2 new hires who have junior experience. They actually don't have any experience right now. They just graduated from a 6-month boot camp training called Kura Labs. The organization is magnificent. If you haven't heard of it, it's KURA labs.org. The
Okay.
organization is looking to train the next SRE and DevOps engineers. It's a free program, completely free to the student. 6 months of intense, beautiful education where the people we hired, they didn't even have a college degree, went into this program, and they're just an amazing addition to our team. They have so much hunger And though they didn't graduate college, they were technicians in the community. They were working at local shops and getting people started on the web and just really figuring things out. And that's the exact mindset you want. So with Core Labs giving opportunities to people to learn something and not take on any student loan debt, which is such another huge issue
Awesome.
in the
Maybe
Black and Brown
after
community.
the show, I'll be able to, we'll put together a list of some of these groups are talking about.
Yeah.
And thank you to
So,
Activism for finding some of these things that, as you mentioned him. So
yeah. I mean, I work with so many amazing organizations. I could always like just share, and I love to share
Mhm.
because I'm definitely, I'm a person who the community helped raise me, and I'm not self-made at all. It's someone helped me along the way, and I love to help either an organization, a mission, or another person.
Okay. So let's go back a little bit to your childhood. And I read that you are one of 9 children.
Yes, 109 children.
Okay. And you're the first in the family to go to college.
Yeah, first in family to go to college, to graduate high school through without failing or getting a GED. Nothing wrong with that, but it's something that I applaud myself in. It wasn't an easy. It wasn't an easy journey, not in North Philadelphia, which is not unique to North Philadelphia, but in all poor communities, regardless if they're white, Black, or brown, you do have high dropout rates. Example, in my school, Thomas Edison, we had a 75% dropout rate in our high school. So graduating was not a common thing, and graduating and knowing how to read and write and do math was not a common thing.
I think
And
you
why?
said that the teachers or what did the teachers say to you when you first started school in the auditorium and the whole class was
Yeah,
sitting?
so our freshman year, we didn't even get assigned rooms in our first month. So we spent a couple of days and weeks in the auditorium because that's how many students are coming in. And basically, the head of the school said, look to your left, look to your right. One of you won't be here next year. And that is really sad and discouraging to tell young people. Our school is actually across the street from um, a grave, a cemetery. Um, so a lot of professionals would also joke that, we either will end up across the street in jail or, just on the street somewhere. Not encouraging words to share with young creatives, young people who want to build a better future. And I didn't know what I was capable of, but I did in high school. I was just exhausted with the statistic that people would tell me what I can be, what I can do. And I was
Yeah, so you were
exhausted.
going to live to that statistic, like they're telling you
I
this
was
because that's all you could attain.
right. So to
Mhm.
me, I was always like, well, where are you finding these data points and statistics, and where's all this coming from? Because like we do want to achieve and we are capable of achieving bigger things. I was an activist very young in high school as well. I joined an organization, Youth United for Change. And Youth United for Change, there, we brought awareness that we had more police officers than textbooks in our schools, that 90% of the students, regardless if you came in with asthma, you left the school with asthma, that there were lead in our drinking water. And we basically shamed the public Philadelphia education system on national TV, just doing our own research and bringing all these things up. So, say I was an activist that young, I just thought I just really cared for my community. And it wasn't until like 2006 where people started calling me, I mean 2016, that people started calling me an activist,
Okay.
that I then embraced the term.
And what do you think in your childhood? I think your father, you said, had worked two jobs and
Yeah,
slept a few hours, and
definitely, my parents, I think when you meet people, they talk with pride of all the accomplishments their parents did. I talk a lot about the accomplishments and the work ethic my parents gave me, working 2 to 3 jobs. And I think that's important in defining who I am. And why that's important is another thing I've always heard, this narrative: people are poor because they're lazy. But then when I look at my parents and I look at my grandparents, they had 2 to 3 jobs. I barely saw them because they worked so hard and so much where their bodies ached. And they didn't even get proper insurance, health insurance, but they've always worked. So I knew that was not true, because I know, um, the world is built and goes around because there are hardworking people all around the world, sadly, who are poor, but still amazing and should be acknowledged for everything that they contribute to society.
thank you. Very moving words. When you were that young, did you have any role models, or did you have any idea what you wanted to be?
So, I mean, so young, I knew I was going to get 2 to 3 jobs like my parents. But I also knew I was always hungry for information. And I would say, my mom was just such a brave woman, always so revolutionary, to even teach me I'm so light skinned, right? But to teach me that even though I'm this light skinned, not to forget, I have African roots and I'm a Black woman first. And as early as I was in kindergarten, she was like, you would check off Black and then you check off other and you put Puerto Rican. So my mom always worked on changing the narratives and pushing us to have like critical thinking skills. So my mom did not, she doesn't speak perfect English. I don't speak perfect English either. But she had a lot of limitations of what she can talk and discuss. And I had so many questions on like how this worked or what happens here, that she would meet people at her job and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you're so amazing. Like, I want my daughter to like meet you." And she would take me to have lunch with like these adults, and I have no idea who they are. And she would just leave me with them. And in one sense, it's stranger danger. I'm a young woman. You have to be super protective of me. But in another sense, it just opened me to so many experiences where I got to see that people went to college, and there was a life outside of the hood of North Philly, Badlands, where I'm from. And she would just expose me, not herself, but through other people. So that's basically how I basically grew this being okay with talking to strangers and telling my story to people and telling them what I want to do. And also just listening, that act of listening, because when I was so young, I didn't even know what I could achieve. And even now, I don't know all the
What
things I
to
can
ask, I
achieve.
suppose, when you met people who live so differently from you.
So it's just to like learn and listen, and stay open minded. And yeah, I would say all those skills, my mom was very influential in granting me those skill sets. So though I grew up very underprivileged, I was very privileged to have a mother as wise as she, who opened me up to the community and the power of community.
Okay. And what did your friends also, were community organizers? And when, how did you put this on national news about the
Yeah,
water?
so I mean, Youth United for Change, it's an organization, and we did have adults who help young people organize, and young people shared ideas of what they wanted to do and what could be possible. We didn't even know we could have these conversations with like the president of the board of education. Um, but it just opens you up. And I think that's what activism does, right? You are so sometimes hopeless and helpless you feel until you start organizing with people and they say, oh, no, 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 you could do this and you can do that and you can shut this down and you can have this conversation. And that's also the beauty of social media, though it has this, you know, the cons with mass misinformation being spread, you also amplify and meet and network with so many amazing people. So I would say, as a young person, Youth United for Change in Philadelphia was super helpful in growing that idea and imagination of what can we do, what conversations can we have, um, especially around education. Still with that organization, I didn't know much. I'm going to be a little vulnerable and share, when I graduated, I didn't know how to read and write too well. I didn't know what a number line was. I was not good in math. Um, so I thought, and then I joined this program with my pastor at that time. It was called Philadelphia Partnership. The program is no longer around, but it worked with students who had a lot of potential, who went to the worst schools. It's not students who had the highest GPAs, because I will tell you, I probably had like a 2.0, and I think that was probably speaking highly of me in high school. Um, and why I say that, I opted out of high school a lot. Why go to a school where there are going to be fights? I was arrested 4 times just for wanting to go to the bathroom or little petty things. And a lot of people, why we had such a high dropout rate, we should just go to work. We see more value in working than in education. And that's the route I took. So my GPA reflected that. Also, again, we didn't have teachers really teaching us anything. But I joined this program, Philadelphia Partnership, and it connected me to the college I graduated from, Indiana University of Pennsylvania, which is located in Western PA. And basically, they gave me like a year to get my act together and close my achievement gap, which was really impossible and
Good.
hard and difficult to
You
do.
did.
Um,
And was that through intensive tutoring or
so
intensive
no,
class?
they just put you in. The
Oh,
school at that time didn't look at your GPA or your
mhm,
SAT scores.
mhm.
Thank the Lord, because yeah, that was not hitting. So I get into college, and very early on, first month, I'm like, yeah, I don't understand what the teachers are saying, what the curriculum entails. Like, I don't know any of this. And I would try to go to study groups, and people, they would say we could move a lot faster if a certain somebody wasn't here holding us back, which was true. And sometimes the truth hurts. It wasn't so inclusive. I would also go to like the study sessions, or the working hours, with the professors, and the professors would say, I definitely highly recommend you just drop out of college and go back to like the 5th grade, because you're so far behind. And that was just like the message. I'm so far behind. I don't get it. I'm unwelcomed. Um, I mean, and to tell you, like, was this an educated place? Someone asked me, as they were like, oh, do Puerto Ricans need green cards? So that just shows you, just because they got accepted and they probably did well in school doesn't make them smart.
Mhm.
But basically, I did feel defeated. I did want to drop out. I did let my mom know, like, hey, school is not for me. And we discussed, well, what did other people have that I didn't? One, a huge thing I didn't have was a laptop. I didn't have access to the internet. I would work after school, and I didn't have money coming in. So I have no parent, no guardian sending me money to get books or food or anything. So I would work, and by the time I came home, it was so late, I couldn't walk to a computer lab. So it was this gap that was there. And what my mom basically did, she fundraised. Right now we call it crowd fund, but basically she just asks local people in the community, they would contribute to me getting a laptop so I can stay in school. And that basically brought me into my love, which is technology. And why my love is, where I felt so rejected in person, I could go online and ask questions like, hey, I'm a freshman, I'm studying this, can you help me out? And people would just send me resources and talks and online curriculum. So I was able to go to class. Maybe I had no clue what they said because I learned differently. So I need to read when people are speaking so I can really understand what you're saying, so I can get it. And I need examples. Video does help me with me taking notes, not just you lecturing, where I don't even know the words you're saying. I'm like, how do you spell that? And I would try to spell everything phonetically. And I remember people looking at my notes and like, who the heck wrote this? This person is like an idiot. But again, online, I didn't have that. I had a community who really empowered me. And though I was almost on academic probation my freshman year, first semester, I graduated with the highest GPA for a person of color. And it wasn't in an easy major. I actually took up applied statistics, which I never even knew I was good at math because I didn't have the opportunity to even explore it. But I love math, I love statistics, I love data, which brings me into Moroxa again. But
I'll just
yeah, it was
let's stop for
definitely
a minute. I just want to say how, thank you for sharing your story. And it's a very powerful story. So you basically sounds like you in your first year of college, you made up all the what you lacked, and the computer was a window to finding out everything you were curious about, which you'd always been curious,
right,
but you didn't have resources.
right. Yeah. And college, it wasn't easy. I don't share this often, but I did have custody of one of my younger sisters. Um, and my two other sisters would visit often, both
And
really young. So
was that to ease the burden on your mother, or
yeah, just home. It's
uh,
just difficult. And my mom and my family knew I was in a different place and I had more opportunities to better education systems than what we had. So I was an 18-year-old with an 11-year-old. Um, and
who
we
lived with
both,
you? Who
yeah.
lived with you and went to
Hmm.
school?
Yep. So we both went to school. So full-time mother. I had three jobs. I was a double major. I did also join a sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And I just grew this ambition. It could also be seen a little toxic, where I just again wanted to stop this narrative that people are poor because they're lazy, or people from my school deserve to like be dead across the street or be on the street. And I just wanted to keep going and see how far I could go, and also bring others along and let them know, hey, we have this thing called the internet and there are all these resources, and I know I'm not that smart, so if I can do it, you can
This
do
is
it, and I can share
before
this.
Google, right?
Right before
Yes.
Google. So a lot of
So
it was like Ask
what did you
Jeeves.
do? Ask Miss Jeeves, yeah.
Yeah, Ask Jeeves. So definitely
And
showing my
you
age.
pick up some of the math or the, things you needed to learn all doing that year? That's
Yeah,
incredible.
I mean, well,
Yeah.
throughout the years, but definitely that year was,
Mhm.
going up the hill where I
Right.
could keep the momentum. I mean, and I'll say, Rose, my freshman year, my first stat class, oh man, did I do terrible in my first exam. I got like a D. I was just like, I'm just so embarrassed. Like, I don't want to be here. I don't know how to do this. And my advisor at this time, he was from India, and he told me I looked like I was from India. And he was like, "You look like my daughter. You're going to learn this information, and I'm going to push you, and you're not going to, you know, remove yourself from this class." And again, with that pressure, I just go online and I'm like, how do I do this? What are tips for this? And I created basically like a cheat sheet for myself to like understand that if I saw this, then I do this. So basically, internal like algorithm on how to study and how to learn. And, Black and Brown students at my school, they were staying in school for like 6 years because they could not get over stats. The football department could not get over stats. And basically, I got hired to be a tutor to the entire athletic department because I taught myself like how to learn things. And I was teaching people how to learn math, how to learn statistics, um, which basically helped bring income to my family, for me, my sister. And it was just great because, again, I'm not only advancing, but people are coming with me. So it's that momentum where I'm like, I can teach and I don't have to be great at it, but I can teach people how to join this educational journey. And yeah, we may have limitations. We may completely lack confidence. We may not be equipped, but we have the courage to keep going because we can figure it out. And that's always been my message, even still today.
Yeah. Strong. Very strong woman. I think there was a very powerful tweet thread you put out, and maybe Stefan can pull up some of those tweets for us to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I think there was one before this, if we can find it. Here.
So it
Okay.
says, I don't know who needs to hear this, but your individual success does not eradicate systemic oppression. And, when I wrote this, it's Black History Month, and you have sometimes people highlighting one or two people to say, oh, look at these people, even myself. Look at Idalin's story. This is the American dream. If she made it, anyone else can make it. This is the stuff that America is built on. But that's not true. 75% of the people I went to high school with systemically were kept out.
Right.
When I graduated, just looking at numbers, 30% of people with a college degree are cashiers, not able to make payments. If you look at the student loan debt crisis that we have now, people are not making enough to make those payments. So just highlighting my individual success, it cannot overshadow the systemic issues that we have. And it's rooted where we have to talk about it, and we can use our privilege um, to amplify the message of the masses. So I'm not too sure if we can get into the Poor People's Campaign, but the Poor People's Campaign is a organization that really inspires me and centers who I am and my values, my core values. In short, the Poor People's Campaign is going to be in short, but not. It's going to be a long story as well. But the Poor People's Campaign was a campaign that was originally started by Dr. Martin Luther King. Actually, on his last birthday, he spent his birthday organizing the Poor People's Campaign in a meeting. So if you want to be like Dr. King, organize the Poor People's Campaign is what I tell you. Get involved. He started talking about the economic conditions of people where, though it was great that he fought for civil rights, what good is it for people to go to a restaurant and be welcome to eat at the counter when they can't afford to buy a burger? And you can say that still today here in 2022, we still have huge issues where the wealth of the 10 richest men has doubled, while the incomes of 99% of the humanity are worse off because of COVID-19. Inequality is so huge that it's just like, yes, I want to celebrate us, but don't add to the narrative to false narratives. And I do want to say that we can practice revolutionary joy. And I learned that the hard way because I thought for many years I had to keep working. I told you for 5 years I worked on 120 projects in 30 different countries. I didn't want to sleep because there is so much to do in the world. And what I learned, I was tired, I was burnt out, and that's not what social justice asked me to do. It didn't ask me to be a martyr. It needs me to be strong. It needs me to be joyful. It needs me to practice peace. It needs me to stop coming to the problem with the deficit mindset and really look at the abundance the world has, the abundance of wealth, the abundance of love, of peace, of people, of resources because of tech. Poverty is not new, but what's new in the world is we do have technological tools to really combat a lot of these issues. We do have access to great resources and information where maybe our history books didn't have it. But today we have lots of information where we can really target, hit problems at the root. So to me, that tweet and that thread it's like, don't become a token. Fight against false narratives that if you work hard, you can become a billionaire, because poor people of color are the hardest working people, and they work long hours. They're paid less, but they keep the world going, and we have to stand united. We have to be in solidarity with people. Just because you make 100K or you make 200K, you should not stand in solidarity with 10 of the richest men. You should stand in solidarity with the rest of the humanity, and we approach problems together and learn from one another. So to me, that's really what that thread is talking about. And again, not forgetting to practice joy and mental health and to take care of yourself. And if you practice self-care the right way, it does lead you back to community care, where I had to take a step back because I was exhausted and burnt out, and I couldn't care for others. I had to spend time to
Do
focus on
that
myself.
during the pandemic, or
In the pandemic, it's not something that I easily came to with the grace of like myself. No, the pandemic completely smacked me in my face and was like, actually, sit down, which was
couldn't
really,
travel, right?
really hard. Sit
Right.
down, and all this energy I'm pouring out, pour some of that back in where I can, because I'm older now. I want to feel and to think of myself like, what wisdom do I have to share instead of just pain, instead of like another sad story? Like, what wisdom do I have to add to the success? What knowledge, what resources, what facts can we equip our young people with? Which really brings techactivist.org, where, my heart is I want to build a pipeline of techies to serve the people. And this project really came out of 2014, where I was asked to be part of the Ferguson movement after the amazing young man, Mike Brown, was brutally killed by police officer Darren Wilson. And I got there and I'm working on websites and I'm helping people, and I'm just like,
So
okay,
they asked you to come partially because you're technical
yeah,
expertise to
Yeah,
help.
just to help with the tech because
Mhm.
I mean, that's normally what I do. People would send me a message and I go and I help and support. But to me, I was just like, man, I kind of feel like a white savior where I'm dropping into this community. And then what happens when I leave? Like, is my knowledge going to leave with me? Can I share this? And again, I have no money at this time. So it's not like, oh, yeah, I have all these resources. I can just give it. But I did what I love and I shared my idea on the internet. And I said, well, I was asked to stay here for 3 weeks and help build this website. If I am able to raise, because I had to leave in 10 days, I was like, if I'm able to raise $10,000 in 10 days, I will take a leave of absence from work and I'm going to stay here and I'm going to open up a tech education center for activists who wants to understand 21st century tools and what can they do to learn about open source, to learn about privacy, to learn about web development, to really, push forward their social justice ambitions. And I did. I raised $12,000 in 10 days, which was amazing. I had companies send me like 16 laptops to get the computer lab started. It was just like an abundance. I had a spreadsheet that someone else created where Black and brown engineers and even white engineers signed up to teach this completely for free, where not only are we talking about tech, but we're talking about, digital colonization, how, only 5% of the world speaks English as its first language, but you have like 75% of the content online in English. How can we honor different languages? So it's really talking about the education about tech inequalities, and centering things so people can really have an understanding of how to get involved. It's bringing up history, like the people's history of the United States, where, you want to empower people with education, but you want to also empower them with history so they have a way to think of the world. One of my mentors, and why I use the Black Panther logo, one of my mentors is the former chairperson of the Black Panther Party, Sister Elaine Brown. And she gave me thumbs up to use the Black Panther logo. A lot of people don't know in 1972, the Black Panther Party had a tech program. They asked the technology question, and they're talking about, with this new emergence of digital technologies where all corporations will now be able to digitally target you with commercials and focus and have you consume more, what can the people do? So they added to the 10-point platform of the Black Panther Party, community control of modern technology, which a lot of people don't know that in 1972, the Black Panther Party is talking about tech and having community control of it. And still in 2022, we're talking about diversity in tech. Just please give us a job in the tech space. And
What
I feel like,
I just ask you, one of the articles I came up with, just I think it was in the magazine section maybe a week and a half ago, that there's if there's a dearth of people qualified to do computer science, and that recruiters, are having a terrible time. It used to be that, if somebody wanted a job, came to you looking for a job, they, would give you flowers and candy and, all things to, but now, they're just, scraping for people that they can recommend, according to the article. So it's a huge question, but, what is it, I guess, part of the whole pipeline that you're talking about, which is, that we have this tiny percentage of Hispanic and Black people in tech, doing tech.
so can you repeat your question one more time so I so I
Yes.
can respond?
Okay. We keep hearing about a shortage of people in tech for computer tech. And this article was about how recruiters are scraping to find people. And we know there's tiny numbers. I mean, it's in the Black and brown community, but even in the VC world, I think only woman company, there's only 7% of, are women.
Right. And I would say, there's definitely the narrative that there is a shortage of people to hire into tech, and it's a sad narrative. I do think, tech companies, they're looking for like seniors, not juniors, and that's exactly what Maroxa is really focusing on. Is you're looking, you have these junior people, but companies want to hire senior people, and that's also what Tech Intersections is, a conference that I do annually. Our conference this year is the last Saturday of March, where we're looking and we're bringing and building a community of Black and brown women who, like, how do you make them into seniors? Like, everyone's always talking about breaking into tech, which you can be placed, but people are really hiring seniors. They want the senior leaders. And it's like, well, how do you create a tech ecosystem to really build those tech skills in communities? So Tech Intersections is a great opportunity where it's an affordable conference. I think when you think tech conference, you learn so many things in a tech conference, but most tech conferences cost like $1,500. Like, who the heck has that money? Even when I worked in the tech conference and in the tech industry for many years, I wasn't making 100,000. Like, there's this like false narrative as well that everyone's making 100,000. That's not true. So when you have very junior people like myself entering tech, you are starting very low, and then you can't afford to go to tech conferences. So Tech Intersections, we make an affordable conference sliding scale from $20 to $150 if your company is sponsoring you. We also we have childcare. What tech conference, provides free childcare? If you want women to show up, you have to provide childcare so women can show up. You have to create a space where you can be inclusive. Um, and you have to talk about skill sets where you're not just breaking in, but you're growing talent. You're giving and talking about topics where people can become seniors, so that people can trust that leadership. Not too sure if that answers that, but there is so much talent, not just here in the U.S. You do have places, even in the islands. The islands are forced to. My family's from the islands, from Puerto Rico and Cuba. When you think of the islands, you just think of tourism, and it's a tourism economy. And when you go there, you have beautiful, amazing young people who want to tap into tech and tap into the future. That's why they want to tap into tech. Right now, it's where the money is. They want to build tools for the future. But people look at those places and they don't even think that that's where talent comes from. Cora Labs, the organization I talked about earlier, they actually they created a training hub in St. Lucia, and they're expanding it to other islands such as Puerto Rico, where they're training people so that we can also bring in some of that talent. There are talents in the African continent. A lot of our tech resources come from the African continent. Why don't we also give jobs there? Everything about our phone is built in the Congo. How many people from the Congo is in the tech space? So it's just like, you have to like really go out and hire from different places. That's what Maroxa does. We hired a person from Palestine. We are a remote organization where people everywhere, wherever you are, you can work with us if you have the skill set, and we're happy to help train people also, so they understand how to contribute to the team. And we also pay them US wages. So, I think that's also like a huge issue where people, they want to onboard folks, but you don't pay them what they're actually worth, which is something where Roxa is trying to build a culture around and make that the new norm as well.
Are you seeing bigger, big tech companies trying? I mean, I thought there is an emphasis. They do want, like the 6 months that they want people from that kind of coding background, that not everybody has to be senior and that you need a pipeline. Do you think that there is, some more emphasis and awareness of that among big tech companies?
I feel again, when you're looking at tech jobs, again, they're requiring for lots of experience. So, in order to have that experience, you have to also create some type of educational curriculum to
Right.
help grow talent. And I think that's like really important. Is
Okay.
like you have to grow talent. There are talented people in there. You have to help build them up.
Okay. So that's a big part of what you're doing
With
as
tech
part of your job
intersections.
now,
Yep, with
right?
tech intersections and as well as Maraxas, creating a culture of mentorship
Okay.
where everyone can teach someone and we bring on junior folks and help them become seniors. It's also amazing to be at a tech company where, I mean, we have so many senior tech people and they're all black and brown and it's just like beautiful. And it starts at the top, that's what the CEO wanted. He created a team around his values. So we don't have a diversity person running our team, but we do have people who practice and use this ethical frameworks like myself in everything we do. We bring diversity not just with our recruiting and hiring, but it's diversifying where you spend your money. It's diversifying your partners and vendors and your services that you use. So we are very intentional in diversifying our funds in every aspect of the company.
That's great. Great to hear, and I hope this show and clips that I put out will inspire more and more tech companies to do things like what you're doing, which
Yeah,
is
and reach out to me. I know we're trying to open source a lot of what we're doing.
Mhm.
So people can have like a toolkit on how to get started. We're a small company. This is our first year going into our second, but we're coming out with all the resources, with all the gems. Like we've been working in the tech field in the world for a long time, and we have a lot to teach to others. So we definitely want to be a great use case for anyone who wants to make a difference.
Are there, are there two or three pieces of advice you could give to somebody who's starting out and is interested, in tech, particularly women of color?
So advice is, I would say, create a social media account, specifically Twitter. Twitter is where you will find an amazing community of women of color who will share all the gems. You have, you know, um, Paris with the
Yeah,
Black.
who created the Black Tech Pipeline hashtag?
Exactly, the Black
Yes,
Tech
yes.
Pipeline. You have Ruben Harris with Career Karma, who drops a lot of knowledge on like how to break in to tech. He also has a podcast that you can listen to. But Twitter is just a great resource. I actually give myself a task, a personal task, to try to help 30 to 50 people get placed in jobs. So even just this year, I know it's we're in February, but I've already helped 5 people. I tell people, hey, like if you
And these
befriend
are
me
people you're meeting online, often.
online,
Yes.
yep. So I meet them online. They
Mhm.
tell me their story, what they're hungry to learn. They share all the stuff that they've worked through to create the knowledge base that they have. And I tell people, if we're connected on LinkedIn and you see someone that I'm connected to and you want me to make an intro, you write the intro, send it to me. I'm going to act like I know you forever. I'm like, hey, here's this person.
Mhm.
Can you let me know? Can you look at their job application? And people are getting hired. People are being connected. And that's exactly what you want. Human beings, we work best in a community, in a village. We take care of each other. I know we focus a lot on individualism and just going on your journey alone, but you do get further working with other people. So go on Twitter and connect with like-minded folks, such as Rose, who's amplifying the voices of so many people, which I'm so thankful. Thank you so much, Rose, for doing what you do and for your team. Who make sure I'm centered, light is focused on me, even though it's a
Yes.
remote recording. Your team puts a lot of effort into this. And I would say follow folks like Rose, follow people um, Paris, follow hashtag Black Tech Twitter, follow hashtag WOC in Tech, Women of Color in Tech, follow Tech Intersections, where we do help place people in getting started and even on that educational journey. Don't sell yourself short because you don't know something. Mom would always tell me, you don't know it today, but guess what? As soon as you learn it, now you know. It's just like, don't limit yourself.
I think there's even I heard you say that when you went to school in your master's in at Mills College in
Women's
Oakland,
college.
right?
Yes.
So, and it's called Silicon Valley, but you didn't really understand why it was called Silicon Valley, but
I thought
you
it
asked.
was I thought it was Silicon Valley. I was like, oh, Silicon is the move, and
Yeah.
I guess that's where I don't understand tech and
Mhm.
silicone, but then I understand silicon and the chip, and I'm like, oh, guess
Yeah.
what? Once you know, then you
Yeah.
know.
Mhm.
And once you know, your job, your one task is this. Once you know, once you have the information, your one job is not to be an asshole about it. It's not to feel yourself and think you're better than. It's not to have a superior complex. Is to understand, I didn't know yesterday, but I know today and tomorrow I would teach someone. And that's like your goal in life, is to keep that educational loop going.
It's great to hear. And I started out, I was an English major, and my first job in college was being a tutor we had an English as a second language. I went to a CUNY school, and I heard the most fascinating stories from people from Pakistan and Turkey, and it's just amazing stories. And they needed help to be able to tell it in a way that was a composition. And it was a great joy to do that. And so I think we should all strive to give back and to share our knowledge rather than, there is so much emphasis in the American um, ideal of, being on your own and, forging ahead. So I think, your lessons, you became who you are by embracing community.
Yes, by embracing community.
Yeah. So let me ask you, I ask everyone this, if you have three or more uh, women to follow that we should know about.
Man, I have a ton of people. I feel like
Yes.
three is so hard.
Yeah.
One person I want to lift up is Jamera Burley, who is an amazing activist. We're both from Philadelphia. We actually met each other last year, even though we attended like everything. She's just amazing. Follow her for all her wisdom and knowledge. She's right now, she's the impact director at Adidas, but that's just her corporate title. Her human title is she's an educator and she's a social justice advocate, and she's a historian, and she's just amazing in all her social media threads. Definitely would highlight Jamira Burley. Another person I would love to lift up is the Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris, who, taught me so much. At a time when I met her, I didn't want to hear from white people. I didn't want to learn anything from white people, because I was just like, oh no, all white people have done is teach me lies. And that's not true. In history, you have so many people who are white who went up against the system and stood for social justice. And you have so many people today. Why I love the Poor People's Campaign is you have young people, older people, white, brown, orange, whatever your color, whatever your ethnicity, whatever your religion, coming together in solidarity. And she taught me that word, that being white doesn't mean you have to be an ally. We don't need you on the sideline. We need you in the movement. We need you standing next to me. We need you as a sister and a brother, as a sibling, as a cousin in the movement with us, not just coaching us on the sidelines. And I'm so thankful for all of
Great
her.
title. I will have to look that book up. Yes.
Amazing. Other people is Michelle Mi-Young Kim, author of The Wake Up, an amazing, amazing person who shares so many facts. You also have the Cyber Collective, amazing collective of women who are educating people online about privacy and data rights. Or data privacy as a human right. It is so many people, I can't just limit it. But again, thank you for allowing me to even just lift up their names, and I hope they become a resource to you and anyone who's listening, and anyone who's listening who wants to connect with me. Any resource I can give you, please feel free to reach out. I am on Twitter, Idalin Bobé, same on Instagram. My email is Idalin, Idalin at Maroxa. Happy to help connect you
Very,
and
very
connect
generous
with
of you
anyone.
to share on this, going to all of you too. So appreciate it. That's great. It's terrific. And anybody who's watching, remember, she'll look out for you if you're looking for help and a job.
Yes.
She will step up.
Yes, I will.
And just a parting question, do you have any vision or goal for yourself in 5 years?
So in 5 years, I want to write a book. I do want to make it free and accessible to everyone. The book, that's my 5-year goal. I do want to
Don't
focus
tell
more.
us the title, because you keep
Yeah,
that
I'm not going to tell you the
intellectual
title.
property.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to tell you the title. But I do want to write a book. I do believe in the power of education. Right now, I know I'm focusing on tech and learning more about the future. Data's new oil, which is Maroxa is a word for oil. And I'm learning so much. I can continue to teach people, especially in human rights and social justice, more about the data movement, more about technologies that you can use, and I want to keep growing and building and learning. So if you want to join that journey with me, also reach out.
Okay.
Help
Well,
me become bigger.
thank you so much. It was really, really an honor to hear your story, and thank you for being so candid. It was really touching. So, I really appreciate your joining me
Thank you
today.
so much, Rose.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for this platform and for sharing my voice. I really
And I
appreciate it.
will put out a tweet with your woman to follow. And if you send me any others, I'll be glad to. And what happens when I do that sometimes is that there's another, 100, 200 women that different people are saying to follow. So that's, a valuable thing when that happens. So,
Perfect.
yeah. And let me, if Idalin, if you can just wait back in the green room for me for just 2 minutes, and I will tell everyone a little bit about what's coming up. We're at the end of February, and it's Black History Month, and I think that's, great to lift up voices, but it wasn't my real sole reason for it wasn't my reason for having Idalin on. Uh, it was the value, the power of her story, uh, and that community she's talking about to lift us all up. So just to talk about my show in March, I plan to have a show about the struggle and plight of women in Afghanistan. Dr. Lina Abi Rafa was a guest was a guest of ours, of mine, when Americans were pulling out of Afghanistan, and she said the woman will fight. She had lived in Afghanistan and had told me she's going to be working on a book. So her book is now out. It's called Freedom on the Front Lines: Afghan Woman and the Fallacy of Liberation. And we'll be celebrating Women's History. I hope to maybe get a few other voices to join us for that show. So be with us on March 3rd, and follow me at Woman to Follow, and power on. Thank you very much.